John Carter stood alone at the massive viewport of the colony ship Perseverance. He watched as Earth, once so grand and important, shrank to nothing more than a small blue dot against the blackness of space. His hands trembled slightly as he pressed them against the cold glass. This might be the last time any human would see their home world. The words of the Galactic Council representative still rang in his ears, cold and final. For crimes against the natural order and the reckless endangerment of countless species, humanity is hereby exiled from protected space. 3 months ago, John had been just another government official, worried about ordinary things like budgets and elections. Then came the day everything changed. The quantum experiment at Wilson Labs in Sydney had gone terribly wrong. What was supposed to be a controlled test of new energy technology instead tore open a hole between dimensions. The resulting blast destroyed half the city and released strange energies that threatened to destabilize the entire Pacific Ocean. Within days, ships from the Galactic Council arrived, massive vessels piloted by beings humans had never seen before. The crystalline Vorn and the cloud-like Aryans used technologies far beyond human understanding to contain the damage and stop the dimensional tear from growing. At first, people celebrated these aliens as saviors. That feeling didn't last long. "We should have known better," muttered a voice beside John. He turned to see Dr. Olivia Martinez joining him at the viewport. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and the bags under her eyes spoke of many sleepless nights. As the chief scientist of the Perseverance, she carried an enormous burden, helping humanity survive wherever they ended up. "How could we have known?" John asked. "We didn't even know the council existed until they showed up." Olivia clutched a small blue crystal to her chest. It contained the sum of human scientific knowledge, everything except the forbidden quantum, research that had doomed them. "The signs were there in our physics," she said. "The equations never balanced properly. We should have realized we were missing something fundamental about how the universe works." Behind them, the ship hummed with activity as 10,000 confused and frightened people tried to make sense of their new reality. The Perseverance was just one of 1,000 such ships, each carrying 10,000 humans, the 10 million people the Council had allowed to leave Earth. The rest, billions of people, would remain under Council supervision as Earth was cleansed of the dangerous quantum energies. No one knew what cleansing really meant. "Admiral Russell wants to see us on the bridge," Olivia said, turning away from the viewport. "The last ships are about to form up for the journey." John nodded and took one final look at Earth before following her through the crowded corridors. People moved aside respectfully when they recognized him. As the former United Nations representative who had negotiated with the Council, many blamed him for failing to change their minds. Others understood he had done everything possible. The bridge of the Perseverance was quiet and tense when they arrived. Fleet Admiral Frank Russell stood tall at the command station, his silver hair gleaming under the bright lights. At 62, he had been called out of retirement to lead this exodus. His weathered face showed no emotion as he studied the displays. "Carter Martinez, good," he said as they entered. "We're receiving the final transmission from Earth Control." On the main screen, a tired-looking woman in a military uniform appeared. "This is Earth Control to Exodus Fleet. All vessels show ready status. The Council ships have moved into position and will escort you to the border of protected space." John noticed how she stumbled over the word escort. They all knew the EDTO Council ships weren't there to protect them, but to ensure they left and never returned. "The coordinates for the journey have been locked into your navigation systems," the woman continued. "These will take you beyond Council territory to an unclaimed sector. After that..." She paused, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. "After that, humanity's path is its own." Admiral Russell stepped forward. "Earth Control, this is Admiral Russell. We copy your instructions. Any final words for the record?" The woman on the screen looked down briefly, then raised her eyes. "Just one, Admiral. Godspeed." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said the young navigation officer, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. Russell nodded. "Begin departure sequence. Formation Alpha. Outside, the 1,000 ships of the Exodus fleet slowly aligned themselves into traveling formation. The massive engines glowed blue as they powered up, preparing for the long journey into the unknown. John looked at the sensor display showing the enormous council ships hovering near Earth. Their alien designs still seemed impossible. Crystal structures that somehow moved as one, cloud-like vessels that changed shape constantly. "What do you think they'll do to Earth?" he asked quietly. Olivia shook her head. "I don't know. The council said they'd remove all traces of the quantum technology and monitor the remaining population, but they think in terms of thousands of years, not human lifespans." Admiral Russell joined them, his voice low. "Our job isn't to worry about what we can't change. Our job is to ensure humanity survives out there." He pointed to the vast emptiness beyond known space on the star map. "Do we have any idea what's waiting for us?" John asked. "None," Russell replied honestly. "The council gave us star charts, but marked most regions simply as unexplored or dangerous. They've clearly avoided the area they're sending us to." Olivia's hand tightened around the data crystal. "We have our knowledge, our technology, what they allowed us to keep, and each other. It will have to be enough." A soft chime sounded throughout the ship, warning everyone to prepare for the first jump. "1 minute to system edge," called out the navigation officer. John took a deep breath and looked at the people around him on the bridge. Scientists, military personnel, government officials, all now refugees. Their faces showed fear but also determination. "We made mistakes," he said quietly, "but we don't deserve extinction." Russell put a firm hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll make sure that doesn't happen." The countdown reached 0. The stars outside, the viewport stretched and blurred as the Perseverance and the entire Exodus fleet made the jump, leaving the solar system behind. Humanity's exile had begun. 5 years had passed since humanity's exile, and life on New Terra was hard but sustainable. The habitable moon orbiting a gas giant had become home to the 10 million humans who had left Earth behind. Its blue-green landscape was dotted with modular buildings and vast agricultural domes, a far cry from the great cities of Earth, but a testament to human resilience. Sam Jenkins wiped sweat from his brow as he adjusted the settings on the main hydroponics array. At 43, he had never imagined becoming the head of agriculture for an entire colony, but his background in botany had made him invaluable. Under the slightly orange light of the alien sun, he had managed to adapt Earth crops to New Terra's higher gravity and strange soil composition. "The wheat hybrids are finally taking," he told his assistant, a young woman named Kate, who had been a college student back on Earth. "Another month and we can start reducing the synthetic supplement in the bread." Kate nodded, making notes on her tablet. "The soil bacteria seem to be reproducing properly now too. The ecosystem is slowly accepting our presence." Sam smiled at this small victory. The colony was no longer on starvation rations, a milestone many had doubted they would reach. The relative peace of the greenhouse was suddenly interrupted as Lisa Peterson burst through the door. As head of the council monitoring committee, her job was to watch for any sign of council activity near their new home. "Sam, we've detected something," she said, her voice tense. "Ships approaching from council space." Sam's heart raced. In 5 years, there had been no contact from the council. Were they coming to deliver more punishment, or perhaps to offer forgiveness? "How far out?" he asked, already moving toward the exit. 3 days at current speed, Lisa replied. "Admiral Russell has called an emergency meeting." Within an hour, the colony's leadership had gathered in the makeshift command center. The room was crowded with both military and civilian leaders, all staring at the large display showing the approaching vessels. Admiral Russell, now with more gray in his hair than brown, studied the sensor readings carefully. Beside him stood John Carter, who had become the colony's diplomatic chief, and Dr. Olivia Martinez, still clutching the data crystal that had become a symbol of humanity's preserved knowledge. "Not council design," Russell muttered, pointing to the unusual configuration of the ships. "These are something else." Olivia adjusted the scanner settings. "There's no quantum signature like council ships have. Whoever they are, they use different technology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't alone in this uncharted region, and they had no idea if these newcomers would be friends or enemies. "How's our defensive capability?" John asked, turning to General William Price, head of the Colonial Security Forces. The general's expression was grim. "We have the shield generators covering the main settlement and 3 patrol ships with basic weapons. Nothing that could stand up to a serious attack. We should try to communicate with them," suggested Lisa. "Maybe they're explorers like us." John nodded in agreement. "We'll prepare a greeting message in all formats. Ready our shuttle for a possible meeting." 3 tense days passed as the colony prepared for first contact. Children were moved to the underground shelters, and citizens trained in combat were issued weapons. The patrol ships maintained a defensive perimeter around New Terra. When the alien fleet arrived, any hope of peaceful contact quickly evaporated. The vessels, angular and covered with what appeared to be weapons, moved aggressively into orbit. "They're scanning us," reported the young officer monitoring communications. "Very intense scans, sir." Before Admiral Russell could respond, a harsh voice crackled over the comm system, speaking in broken but understandable English. "Human settlement detected. You exist outside Council protection. Your resources are now claimed by the Krell Dominion. Surrender or be destroyed." The command center erupted in panicked voices until Russell slammed his hand on the table. "Silence. General Price, battle stations. John, try to buy us time." John stepped forward, activating the transmitter. "This is John Carter of New Terra. We are peaceful settlers in this unclaimed region. We have no quarrel with the Krell Dominion and would welcome peaceful dialogue." The response was immediate. "Dialogue unnecessary. Humans have no rights in this space. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender." As the transmission ended, General Price turned to Russell. "They know too much about us. They specifically identified us as humans outside Council protection." Russell's face darkened. "They've been waiting for this. The Council exiles someone, and these Krell swoop in to pick up the pieces." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the command center. One of the Krell ships had broken formation and was descending toward the southern agricultural quadrant. "They're not waiting!" Price shouted, rushing to the defense controls. What followed was chaos. The Krell ship fired energy weapons that easily overwhelmed the colony's shields in that sector. Buildings collapsed, fields burned, and people died. The patrol ships tried to engage but were quickly outmatched. In the medical center hours later, Dr. Martinez worked frantically to treat the wounded. Burn victims filled every available bed, their injuries unlike anything she had seen before. As she scanned one patient with severe radiation burns, her equipment displayed unusual readings. The quantum radiation that all survivors of Earth carried in their cells, a remnant of the catastrophe, was reacting strangely to the Krell weapons. "This is impossible," she whispered, adjusting the scanner. The radiation was absorbing and redirecting energy, creating a protective barrier at a cellular level. The most exposed patients should have died, but somehow they had survived. In another part of the colony, young engineer Paul Williams watched the recovery efforts with growing anger. His parents had been working in the southern quadrant during the attack. His mother had survived, but his father was among the 37 dead. As night fell over the damaged colony, Paul slipped into one of the research labs. If the Krell would return, and everyone believed they would, humanity needed a way to fight back. He had overheard doctors discussing the strange radiation readings and had an idea. If humans couldn't escape their contamination, perhaps they could use it. At the command center, Admiral Russell and the leadership prepared for another attack. The Krell had withdrawn to orbit but continued to broadcast demands for surrender. They had given the colony 3 days to decide. "We need options," Russell said, looking at the tired faces around him. "Any options at all?" John gazed out the window at the smoke still rising from the southern quadrant. "We came here to escape one enemy only to find another," he said quietly. "But this time we won't just accept our fate." Across the colony, despite the fear and grief, A new determination was taking hold. Humanity had been exiled, but they would not be exterminated. Somehow they would find a way to survive and perhaps even to fight back. 3 years after the first Krell attack, humanity had changed. The desperate survivors had become warriors. The peaceful colony on New Terra now bristled with weapons and shields based on the quantum radiation technology that Paul Williams had pioneered. Commander Nicole Adams stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the first warship built entirely in exile. At 35, she had once been a commercial pilot on Earth. Now she commanded humanity's best hope against the Krell. The ship hummed with power as the quantum absorption fields charged to maximum strength. "All systems ready," reported Paul, from engineering. Now the chief engineer, he had turned his grief into determination. The shield technology he developed could absorb Krell energy weapons and redirect the power. What had once been a curse, the quantum radiation all humans carried, had become their greatest weapon. "Begin the operation," Nicole ordered, her voice firm. On the main view screen, 4 Krell ships patrolled near the asteroid field that intelligence suggested contained their main base. For 3 years, the aliens had attacked human settlements, repeatedly. Each time, humanity fought back more effectively as they adapted to Krell tactics and weapons. "The element of surprise is our advantage," Nicole reminded her crew. "Remember your training." The Defiance moved silently through space, its engines modified to leave minimal energy signatures. Behind it followed 2 smaller ships, the Courage and the Hope. Together they formed humanity's first battle fleet. "Enemy ships holding position," reported the tactical officer. "They haven't detected us yet." Nicole nodded. "Move into range and prepare to fire." This mission was different. Rather than merely defending, humanity had decided to take the fight to the Krell. Admiral Russell and the colony leadership had debated the plan for months before approving it. "We can't keep waiting for them to attack," Nicole had argued in the final meeting. "We need to hit their base, disrupt their operations." The Defiance closed on the nearest Krell ship, weapons charged. When they were just within range, Nicole gave the order. "Fire." Beams of concentrated energy, captured from previous Krell attacks and stored in the ship's quantum batteries, lanced out and struck the enemy vessel. The Krell ship rocked with the impact, its shields failing instantly. "They're scrambling," the tactical officer reported. "The other ships are moving to engage." The battle erupted with blinding flashes as energy weapons fired from both sides. The human ships absorbed much of the Krell firepower through their quantum shields, growing stronger with each hit. "Push through to the asteroid field," Nicole ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The 3 human ships pressed forward, punching through the Krell patrol line. 2 enemy vessels were disabled. The others fell back toward their base. Within the massive asteroid that served as the Krell headquarters, alarms sounded. The aliens had never expected their prey to become predators. "We're approaching the main asteroid," Paul reported from engineering. "Scans show massive power signatures inside." Nicole studied the tactical display. "All ships concentrate fire on this section." She marked a spot that appeared to be an entrance. The combined firepower of the 3 ships blasted through the asteroid's outer defenses. As rock and metal fragments scattered into space, a large hangar became visible. "Boarding teams, prepare for deployment," Nicole ordered. This part of the mission was the most dangerous and the most important. They needed information about why the Krell had targeted humans specifically. Led by Captain Eric Reynolds, 50 soldiers in armored spacesuits launched from the Defiance. They used small thrusters to guide themselves into the Krell hangar. Inside, they met fierce resistance. "We're encountering heavy fire," Eric reported over the comm. "These aren't just Krell. There are other species fighting alongside them." Nicole frowned. "Can you identify them?" "Negative. Nothing we've seen before." The battle raged for hours. On the bridge of the Defiance, Nicole coordinated the attack, directing support fire and watching the life signs of her boarding teams with growing concern. "We've reached what appears to be a command center," Eric finally reported. "The resistance is breaking down." "Wait." His voice cut off momentarily. "Commander, you need to see this. We're sending visual." The main screen on the bridge filled with an image from Eric's helmet camera. It showed a room filled with strange technology, but what caught everyone's attention was a large display on the wall. It showed Earth, images from before the quantum catastrophe. "They've been watching us for years," Eric said, his voice tight. "There's more. Stand by." The camera panned to show an alien unlike the Krell, taller with gray skin and 3 pairs of eyes arranged vertically on its face. "One of them is still alive," Eric reported, "and it seems eager to talk." Within an hour, Nicole had joined the boarding team in the captured command center. The alien, which identified itself as a Dreth, was secured but treated for its injuries. "Why did you attack our colonies?" Nicole demanded. The Dreth made a strange clicking sound with its mouth parts that the translation device interpreted as laughter. "You humans think too small," it said. "The Krell are merely tools as you were. We have been guiding events for far longer than you imagine." Nicole stepped closer. "What does that mean? Guiding what events?" "Your quantum catastrophe," the Dreth said simply. "Did you think it was mere accident that your scientists worked on technology far beyond your understanding? We provided the subtle push at critical moments. The revelation stunned the humans present." Paul, who had joined Nicole, felt his hands shake with rage. "You caused the disaster that killed millions and got us exiled?" he asked. The Dreth's eyes blinked in sequence. "We needed the Council to notice you, then discard you. Humans have certain qualities that make you valuable, but the Council would never have allowed us to work with you directly. So you had us kicked out of protected space so you could, what, experiment on us?" Nicole's voice was cold with anger. "To use you," the Dreth corrected. "Your bodies carry quantum energies that can be weaponized against the Council. We have been trying to harvest this potential." As the implications sank in, Eric approached with another discovery. "Commander, we found these in a secure room." He held up data crystals similar to the one Dr. Martinez still guarded. "There's more," he continued. "The Krell weren't just attacking randomly. They were collecting humans. We found pods with captured colonists inside." Nicole's blood ran cold. "Are they alive?" "Yes, but they've been experimented on." As the human forces secured the Krell base and freed their captured comrades, the full truth began to emerge. Humanity had been set up to take the fall in a much larger game between the Dreth and the Council. Back on New Terra, Dr. Martinez made another discovery. The quantum radiation was changing, becoming more stable rather than decaying as expected. And it was affecting the environment in subtle ways that seemed beneficial to human life. The exiles were evolving, and as the Defiance returned home with its prisoners and discoveries, humanity faced a new question. Now that they knew the truth, what would they do with it? 7 years into exile, the morning sky above New Terra filled with light as a ship unlike any human vessel entered orbit. Its crystalline structure caught the sun and scattered rainbow patterns across the colony below. Everyone recognized it. Immediately, a council ship. Admiral Russell stood on the landing pad with Dr. Martinez and John Carter beside him. All 3 had aged during their years in exile, their faces lined with the strain of keeping humanity alive. "Never thought I'd see one of those again," John said, shielding his eyes as he looked up. "Why now after all this time?" Dr. Martinez clutched her datapad. "Maybe they detected our battle with the Krell, or maybe they've been watching all along." A small shuttle detached from the council ship and descended toward the colony. Unlike the sharp angles of human ships or the brutal design of Krell vessels, this craft moved with impossible grace, as if friction and gravity were merely suggestions. "Remember the protocol," Russell reminded his companions. "No weapons visible, no threatening moves. We can't afford to make them angry." The shuttle touched down without a sound. A door appeared in its seamless side, and from it emerged a being that seemed made of living crystal, 8 feet tall, with a body that caught and reflected light from 1,000 facets. Sentinel Zorith of the Vorn stepped onto New Terra. Behind the Sentinel came 2 guards of the same species, carrying what appeared to be ceremonial staffs. John stepped forward, bowing slightly as they had learned was proper during the exile negotiations. "Sentinel Zorith, we welcome you to New Terra. I am John Carter, diplomatic chief of the human settlement. The crystalline being's face, a more complex cluster of crystals at the top of its form, shifted slightly. I remember you, John Carter of Earth. Your words were passionate but ultimately futile during the Council's judgment. John's jaw tightened, but he maintained his diplomatic smile. Much has changed since then, Sentinel. We would be honored to show you what humanity has accomplished in exile. Zorith moved forward, crystal limbs making soft, chiming sounds. I have not come for a tour, human. The Council has detected unusual quantum fluctuations from this sector. You are forbidden from pursuing such research. Admiral Russell stepped forward. We haven't pursued forbidden research, Sentinel, but we have had to defend ourselves against attacks. Zorith's body flashed with internal light, a sign of surprise or anger they couldn't tell. Attacks? From whom? This sector is uninhabited except for your exile colony. Perhaps the Council's knowledge is not as complete as you believe, Dr. Martinez said quietly. We have encountered a species called the Krell, who serve a race known as the Dreth. The Sentinel went completely still, light freezing within its crystalline form. After a long moment, it spoke again. You will show me evidence of these claims immediately. They led Zorith to the secure building where the captured Dreth was held. The alien had refused to provide its name, so the humans simply called it the prisoner. When the door opened and the crystalline form of Zorith entered, the Dreth made a hissing sound and backed against the wall. Vorn, it spat. The Council sends its most rigid enforcers. Zorith studied the Dreth without speaking. Then, turned to the humans. The Council does not concern itself with the Dreth. They are insignificant. Insignificant? John's diplomatic veneer cracked. They claim responsibility for the quantum catastrophe on Earth. They engineered our exile so they could exploit us outside Council protection. Zorith's crystalline form vibrated slightly, perhaps the Vorn equivalent of a dismissive shrug. The Dreth are known manipulators and liars. Their claims are meaningless. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, activating her datapad. We have evidence, Sentinel, and there's more you need to see. She showed Zorith the data they had recovered from the Krell base, including records of Dreth operations on Earth dating back decades before the catastrophe. Then she presented her most surprising findings, the environmental changes happening on New Terra. The quantum radiation we all carry is changing, she explained, showing comparative scans. It's becoming stable, integrating with our cellular structure, and it's affecting the environment around us. She led Zorith outside to a test field where plants grew with surprising vigor. These were planted in soil that was once barely fertile. The radiation is somehow making the plants stronger, filtering the atmosphere. It's almost like it's reshaping our environment to better support us. Zorith stood motionless, studying the field. This is impossible, the Sentinel finally said. The radiation should be destructive, not creative. Before Martinez could respond, alarms blared throughout the colony. On the horizon, the air seemed to shimmer as multiple ships dropped their cloaking devices and appeared in the sky. Dreth warships, gasped John. How did they find us so quickly? Russell was already on his communicator. All defense units to stations. Evacuate civilians to the shelters. Zorith's crystalline form flashed with internal light. My vessel. They must have followed it here. As colony defense systems activated and people ran for cover, the first energy blasts from the Dreth ships struck the outlying buildings. The protective shields Paul Williams had designed flared to life, absorbing much of the impact. But they wouldn't hold forever. We need to get you to safety, Russell told Zorith. If the Dreth capture a Council Sentinel, I require no protection from humans, Zorith interrupted. The crystalline being raised one arm, and a beam of intense white light shot toward the sky. Moments later, the Council ship in orbit responded with its own weapons, striking one of the Dreth vessels. The battle escalated quickly. Human defense ships launched from their hangars, including the Defiance with Commander Nicole Adams at the helm. They fought alongside the Council vessel against the superior numbers of the Dreth fleet. From the colony's command center, Russell, Martinez, John, and Zorith watched the battle unfold on tactical displays. Why would they risk attacking with a council ship present? John wondered aloud. To eliminate witnesses, Zorith replied. If I do not return to report what I have seen here, the council will remain ignorant of Dreth activities. On the screen, they watched as the Defiance absorbed energy from Dreth weapons, its shields glowing brighter with each hit, before releasing the stored power back at the attackers. The council ship moved with impossible precision, its weapons far more advanced than anything humans or Dreth possessed. Yet the Dreth had numbers, and they pressed the attack relentlessly. A massive Dreth flagship appeared from hyperspace, dwarfing all other vessels in the battle. That's their command ship, Martinez said, pointing to the display. If we can take it out. Admiral Russell studied the tactical situation, his face grim. The only way would be a direct hit to their power core. He picked up the communicator. Defiance, this is Admiral Russell. Fall back to defensive positions. But, on the bridge of the Defiance, Nicole Adams had already reached the same conclusion as Russell. Their flagship is the key, she told her crew. If we can get close enough, we can overload our quantum absorption fields and release all the energy directly into their core. Paul Williams looked up from his engineering station, his face pale. That would destroy the Defiance too. The backlash would be catastrophic. Nicole nodded. I know. Evacuate the crew. I'll take her in alone. As escape pods launched from the Defiance, Admiral Russell realized what was happening. He grabbed the communicator again. Commander Adams, abort this mission immediately. That's an order. Nicole's voice came back calm and steady. Sorry, Admiral. Sometimes one must be sacrificed for the good of all. It's what we've always done. She paused. Tell the Council what really happened here. The Defiance turned and accelerated toward the Dreth flagship, absorbing enemy fire as it went, its quantum fields glowing ever brighter. In the command center, humans and Sentinel alike watched in stunned silence as the small human ship rammed the massive Dreth vessel. The explosion lit up New Terra's sky like a second sun. 2 years after the great battle against the Dreth, a fleet of council ships arrived at New Terra. This time they came not with threats, but with curiosity. Humanity had not only survived exile but had thrived, expanding to 2 more nearby planets. The quantum radiation that once marked them as dangerous had continued its strange evolution, creating a symbiotic relationship with human biology. Grace Williams stood nervously at the landing pad, watching the council ships descend. At 24, she had become the leading expert on what humans now called quantum symbiosis. She was also the younger sister of Paul Williams, who had barely escaped the Defiance before Commander Adams's sacrifice. Beside Grace stood Dr. Olivia Martinez, now 67, her hair completely white, but her mind as sharp as ever. John Carter and Admiral Russell had also come to meet the council delegation, along with other colony leaders. The shuttle that landed was much larger than the one that had brought Sentinel Zorith 2 years earlier. When its doors opened, a procession of alien beings emerged, representatives of the many species that formed the Galactic Council. The tall crystalline Vorn came first, followed by the cloud-like Aryans, then reptilian Saurans, and several other species humans had never seen before. Leading them all was an ethereal being whose form seemed to shift between solid and light. Elder Lies, one of the oldest council members. John stepped forward to greet them, using the formal phrases he had practiced. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, New Terra welcomes you in peace. Elder Lies moved forward, its voice somehow coming from all around them rather than from a specific point. We come seeking understanding, not judgment. Sentinel Zorith's report has raised many questions within the Council. Zorith, who was among the delegation, inclined its crystalline form slightly. What I witnessed here challenged beliefs the Council has held for 10,000 years. The delegation was taken to the colony's central hall, where human scientists had prepared detailed presentations. Grace led the first briefing, explaining the evolution of the quantum radiation. What appeared destructive was actually transformative, she told the council representatives, showing comparative scans on large displays. The quantum energy that was released in the catastrophe on Earth changed us at a cellular level. But, instead of killing us, it formed a symbiotic relationship. She displayed models showing how the radiation had integrated with human DNA, stabilizing over generations. The Dreth knew this might happen. That's why they manipulated our research and triggered the process prematurely in an uncontrolled environment. The reptilian Sauron leaned forward, eyes narrowed. To what end? What advantage would this give the Dreth? Dr. Martinez answered this question. They wanted to weaponize us against the Council. They believed they could harness our quantum abilities once they developed fully. Elder Lys moved around the room, its form rippling with light. For 10,000 years, the Council has sought guardians who could manage quantum instabilities in the fabric of our universe. Many promising species were tested, but none survived the process. The being turned to face Grace. We never considered the possibility that biological life could evolve this capability naturally. Admiral Russell, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. The catastrophe was terrible, millions died. But it woke something in our species that might serve a greater purpose. The Council representatives conferred among themselves in their own languages, creating a strange symphony of crystal chimes, whistling air, and reptilian hisses. Finally, Elder Lys addressed the humans again. We wish to observe these abilities directly. Grace nodded and led them outside to a special testing ground. There, several humans demonstrated abilities that had only recently emerged. The power to sense quantum fluctuations, to stabilize unstable energy, even to heal cellular damage caused by radiation. Most impressive was Paul Williams, who showed how humans could now form quantum shields without technology, using only their evolved biology. What we once needed machines to do, we can now accomplish ourselves, he explained. The Council observed for hours, measuring and recording everything. When they finally returned to the central hall, their mood had changed noticeably. The Council must reconsider its judgment of humanity, Elder Lys announced. What we witnessed here today suggests your species may have a role to play in the greater galaxy. John Carter could hardly believe what he was hearing. Are you saying our exile might end? Elder Lys's form brightened. We are proposing more than that. The Council wishes to offer humanity conditional readmittance to protected space, not as ordinary members, but as designated quantum guardians. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. After years of struggle and adaptation, humans would not only return to the galactic community but would have a special status within it. What would this role entail? Admiral Russell asked cautiously. Your people would help protect the fabric of space-time from quantum disruptions, Zorith explained. In return, you would have access to Council technology and protection. And Earth? Dr. Martinez asked. The people we left behind? Elder Lys dimmed slightly. Earth has been under Council supervision since your departure. The population there has been carefully monitored but knows nothing of quantum abilities or your development here. Reunification would need to be gradual. The human leaders asked for time to consider the offer, as the Council representatives returned to their ships promising to come back in 1 week for an answer. The colony erupted in both celebration and debate. That evening, Grace Williams stood with Olivia Martinez at the memorial to those lost in the catastrophe and exile. The wall of names included Commander Nicole Adams, along with thousands of others who had died so humanity could survive. Do you think they would be proud of what we've become? Grace asked, touching her brother's name on the memorial. He hadn't died, but had suffered severe injuries during the battle. Olivia gazed up at the stars, no longer a wilderness, but once again a realm where humanity might have a place. They would be, but they would also remind us that great power carries great responsibility. A week later, when the Council returned, humanity gave its answer. They would accept the role of quantum guardians, but with conditions of their own, including the eventual reunification with Earth and a full investigation into the Dreth's manipulation of multiple species. In orbit above New Terra, construction began on the Guardian, the first of a new class of ships that would carry humans back into Council space not as exiles, but as protectors of the very civilizations that had once judged them too dangerous to exist. As Grace boarded the Guardian for its maiden voyage, she carried with her a small blue crystal, the original data crystal her mother had given her, containing all of human knowledge. But now it held something more, the story of humanity's exile and redemption. The catastrophe had not been the end of humanity's story. It had been the beginning of something much greater than anyone could have imagined.